Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to this MPW sample lesson for NCUK Economics. This will be hosted by MPW Birmingham's Mr. Martin Blythe. We hope you will find this session both informative and interesting. Please remember to turn your microphones off now, and we will have time at the end as well to answer any questions that you have. But for now, over to you, Martin, and enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicity, for that warm introduction, and welcome to everybody joining us this morning as we take a look at the International Foundation Year Economics Programme for NCUK. As Felicity has said, if you could just make sure that your microphones are muted, that would be absolutely fantastic, and there's no need for you guys to have your video cameras on whatsoever. In today's session, we're going to have a very brief look at the wonderful subject that is economics. And we're going to cover one of my favourite topics, which is the topic of the functions of the price mechanism. Now, the word economics itself, unfortunately, can cause a lot of fear in individuals who have never studied it before. For some reason, this subject has connotations of being only for the elite. So people think you have to be really clever, or you have to be really academic, or you can only study economics if you want to study at Oxford or Cambridge. And whilst it's great if you want to do those things, economics really is for everybody. And therefore, at MPW Birmingham, I don't put any entry requirements on economics whatsoever. I remember when I was a little bit younger, my uncle turned to me and said, economics is the most boring subject in the world if it is taught badly. And I can guarantee you that at the MPW colleges, economics will not be taught badly. And we teach economics with such enthusiasm and high levels of expertise that I can guarantee you'll really enjoy studying the subject with us. So I can see we've got a few attendees in the room, which is great. I want to know what your understanding is of economics at this stage, joining this taster session. And I would love to hear from you. So Carmen, what do you understand by the term economics? What does economics mean to you? Carmen, are you there? No. Maria, are you there? Maria, what do you understand by the word economics?
Economics is something connected with money,
Yeah, really good answer, Maria. In fact, if I had to ironically put money on which word I thought somebody would say, it would be money itself. A lot of people think that economics is the study of money. And I do have to give you a short disclosure here. If you're studying economics because you want to get rich quick, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. It's still worth studying and you might get rich. Of course, economics tops many of the graduate rankings, but economics isn't just the study of money. Although, of course, in the first few lessons, we'll look at the role of money within the economy. Alyssa, what do you understand by the word economics? Are you there, Alyssa? Fedor, are you there? What do you understand by the word economics?
Alyssa's typed to you, mate. She says,
fantastic.
The movement of money in the economy.
Really good. And that's one of the first things we'll look at when we start studying NCUK economics. We'll be looking at something called the circular flow of income, which looks at how money moves around the economy. Now, to really understand economics, we need to establish a few objectives of what we're going to be looking at today. Hopefully, by the end of today's session, we'll have an understanding of the basic economic problem. This is the issue which underpins the whole of economic study, and we'll look at that in just a moment. And I'm also hoping that by the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to understand the key term, demand. Many of you have probably heard the saying, that's just supply and demand. And when you become an economist, you really see the maturity of your conversations advance significantly. You'll understand what we mean by that key term, demand. And I'm hoping, rather ambitiously, that by the end of this session, you'll be able to understand why prices rise and fall in markets to eliminate shortages and surpluses. Now, although you guys have given me some fantastic basic insight into what you already understand by the word economics, what we need to do first of all is take a trip to ancient Greece. And the ancient Greeks were the first civilization to actually create a term to describe what economics actually is. And the word economics originates from the Greek word oikonomika. And if we roughly translate oikonomika into English, it translates as the art of household management. Now, to be honest, I knew that nobody joining this session would give me the definition, the art of household management. But that is what economics actually is. In economics, what we study is how we allocate resources to the most efficient use. And the reason why it is so critical to understand and be able to analyze how we allocate resources is because of the basic economic problem. The basic economic problem is scarcity. This basically means that we don't have enough stuff, for want of a better phrase. So within the global economy, all resources are limited. Every single country has a limited amount of land in which they can build new buildings and they can grow crops to feed their populations. In addition, we're limited by the size of our population itself. Believe it or not, I am a human input into a production process right now. I'm delivering a service to you guys. But there is a limit to the amount of labor which any country and the global economy as a whole has at any one time. And it's not just our land and our humans, our labor, we'll call them, that is limited, is also our capital goods. And capital goods are any good which has been made to help make another good. So right now, if we think about creating this educational service and me delivering this webinar and sample session to you, I'm currently in school. I'm inside MPW Birmingham, and MPW Birmingham is built on top of a piece of land. So that's a scarce resource. Then I'm inside the building, which is a unit of capital. The building itself is what we call a capital good. I'm using another capital good. This computer screen in front of me and the webcam are capital items. And then me, the human input, the labor, is all coming together to construct a service. Now, at some point, the CEO and principals of MPW will have decided that that was a good allocation of resources. And whether they consciously thought it or not, what they were doing by deciding to create this webinar and to build a school and provide outstanding lessons is we're actually engaging with economics. Now, considering that scarcity is the fundamental problem, this problem is actually worsened by the existence of infinite wants. Now, I don't know about you guys, but at some point in my life, I have definitely had the thought, if I won the lottery, I would like to. And if you just think about, imagine you're given £2 million or, 20 million naira or 50 million Chinese renminbi, wherever you are in the world. Imagine receiving that huge sum of money. You probably have an idea of how you would spend it. So if I was given £2 billion, I'd probably buy a Lamborghini, I'm going to be honest. I'll probably buy a new swanky apartment in Birmingham city centre, costing around £750,000. And when the coronavirus pandemic is over, I'll definitely be heading on a holiday to the Maldives. And then I'm back in the room and I realize that I don't have the £2 million and I won't be buying a Lamborghini and I won't be buying that swanky apartment in Birmingham. And unfortunately, I'm not going to the Maldives. But that point hopefully just illustrates that every single one of us has infinite desires, infinite wants. We always want more than we currently have. It's human nature to envy other people's assets. You want them even though you can't have them. So in an economy, in the world, on planet Earth, We have a very limited amount of resources, but our wants are essentially unlimited. And in the very first economics lesson of an academic year, we normally play a game. And that game is Doctor Doctor. And in this game, I give you a list of 10 people who require kidney dialysis treatment. And I give you the bad news that in our hospital, we only have 5 dialysis machines available. And I make you tell me which 5 of those 10 people you're going to give the treatment to save their lives. And what we need to do in economics is really carefully analyze all of the pros and cons of our decision making. But if you are joining MPW Birmingham or any of the wonderful MPW colleges for the next academic year, it's unlikely that we're going to be talking about kidney dialysis. In reality, the basic economic problem is illustrated on the news every single day all around the world, because we are currently living in a coronavirus crisis. We are living in a global pandemic where, unfortunately, there are thousands of new recorded cases every single day. And despite the advice and restrictions, we do still have a rising death rate. And about 10 weeks ago, the UK economy itself went into a process called lockdown. And many of you in your own countries probably will have experienced something similar, or you would have seen this lockdown in your own countries, and you would have not been able to leave the house. And the reason why we were put into lockdown is to save the NHS and to protect our medical resources within our economy. Because what was happening was there was this exponential, this really quick growth in the number of coronavirus cases. And one of the most serious consequences of gaining or having COVID-19 is that you struggle for air and you actually need oxygen. And what we were seeing is thousands of people being admitted to hospital. And then when they were arriving at hospital, the hospitals didn't have the resources required to treat every single patient. And politicians, Boris Johnson, Emmanuel Macron, Donald Trump, leaders all around the world, for want of a better term, actually had to make a decision to enforce the lockdown to protect the scarce resources we have at our disposal. I think Donald Trump did a very famous press conference a few weeks ago where he said that they had 9,000 ventilators ready to go. And during his press conference, he celebrated that as a marvelous achievement. 9,000 ventilators in storage, ready to go in case you get coronavirus. But at the rate in which the coronavirus pandemic was spreading throughout the USA, the issue was that in a very short amount of time, more than 9,000 people needed a ventilator. And because of this scarcity of resources, economists, you, me, doctors, nurses, the police, teachers, educators have to make choices. And unfortunately, with the coronavirus, it's a choice between letting someone live and letting someone die, because we don't have the amount of ventilators required to actually cure everybody and get them through this terrible, terrible disease. So on your screen now, you should be able to see one of Birmingham's most iconic exports, the dairy milk. And I hope that all of you throughout the global economy have at some point experienced the intense joy and satisfaction of consuming a dairy milk. And just from a really proud Brummie, that's what you call someone from Birmingham, perspective, I would be so grateful if you could let me know in the conversation box if you've tried and you have consumed a dairy milk, just so I can see the global outreach of our greatest export. Let me know if you've had a dairy milk. Now, with a dairy milk, it has a price. You walk into a shop. Oh, great, Imran, Alyssa, it's so good to see that you've had that dairy milk. Carmen too. You've gone into a shop and you can see that dairy milk, that luxurious product. And you walk into the shop and you say to the shopkeeper, how much is this dairy milk? And they tell you the price. Or there's a little piece of paper attached to the shelf which says the price of the dairy milk. Now imagine walking into the shop and the dairy milk price is the equivalent of £5 British. So £5 British would be roughly 45 Hong Kong dollars, around €4.50, about $6 US. How many of you would be willing and able to pay that amount of money for a standard sized dairy milk? Again, let me know in the comment box if you would be very happy to spend £5 on a dairy milk. Put the words very happy if you would spend that much on this product. It's only $6. It's only 45 HKD. Nobody in the comment box is saying, yes, I am very happy to pay that much money for a dairy milk. But it's delicious. Can't I convince you? You know, it's quite offensive. I'm in Birmingham right now. I'm 2 miles from the Cadbury factory. This is our greatest export. Surely it has a high value. Okay, so maybe if you won't pay £5, well, let me give you pay £4. Okay, so 40 Hong Kong dollars, maybe €3.80, maybe $5 US. Anyone going to pay that much for the dairy milk? Again, write very happy if you'd be willing to pay £4 for this dairy milk. Still waiting. I'm still waiting. Nobody is willing or able to pay £4 for a dairy milk if they walk into the shop. Okay. Maybe we'll go for a really significant price reduction. Let's say £2. So this dairy milk is now £2. It's €1.80. It's $3 US. It's 16 Hong Kong dollars. How many of you are willing and able to pay £2 for this dairy milk? Again, write very happy if you would pay that for this chocolate bar. Nobody. I think you guys must have some insider knowledge in this market. You must know that if you were in the UK right now, you'd be able to buy this dairy milk for 60 pence, £0.6. I can see allocates will be willing to pay £2. That's what I like to see. I think it's worth that much too. But what we have to think about is the market price. So how many of you would be willing to pay 60 pence, €1, $1.5 US, 7.5 Hong Kong dollars for a dairy milk? Let me know if you'd be very happy to buy the dairy milk at that price. Ah, great. Alyssa is very happy. So what we could see there, as I grow, great, Darren as well, brilliant. You can see that you're happy to pay for that chocolate bar. What we can see there is that as I gradually reduce the price, you guys became more willing and able to buy the dairy milk at the lower price. And this is because of the law of demand. And the law of demand is backed up by a theory called the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now, as prices get lower in the market, there is a greater incentive for us to consume them. As a household, which basically means a person, we want to make sure that with our scarce resource, money, we get the best value and the highest level of satisfaction from our decision making. So when you think about the dairy milk being offered at £5, what you will have been doing subconsciously is weighing up all of the other things that you could buy for £5 whole. So you might think, well, with £5 or 40 HKD or $10 US, rough calculations these are, you could have maybe bought a cinema ticket. Maybe you could have gone to McDonald's and have a whole meal. Maybe you could have got a KFC bucket or a KFC meal for that price. So when you're comparing whether to buy a KFC for £5 or a McDonald's for £5 or a small dairy milk chocolate bar, you believe that you're getting more satisfaction from buying the KFC or the McDonald's at that price than you would from the dairy milk. But as the price of the dairy milk gets lower, you begin to realize that the price which is displayed and is being charged is equal to the value you place upon that good. And gradually, if I was to reduce the price further from 60p to 50p to 40p, all the way down to 10p, what would happen is you would become more willing and more able to buy the dairy milk. And if the dairy milk's got as cheap as 10 pence or 15 cents, you'd be willing and able to buy lots of dairy milks. You might buy one for now, you might buy 20 to put in the cupboard to keep you going over the next few days and weeks. And therefore in the market, as prices go down, households, consumers become more willing and able to buy the goods. Likewise, when prices go up, people become less willing and able to buy the goods as well. And what we're going to look at now is the function of the price mechanism in allocating resources. Now, one of my favorite games in the economics classroom is in week 2 of the NCUK course, we'll be looking at demand. And I will say to students, how would you define demand? It's a word we use all of the time. If you go into a retail shop or a restaurant and you don't like the experience, you might say, I demand to talk to your managers right now. If you don't like the test result that you got, you might say, I demand a resit or a remark. That's not how economists think of the word demand. Demand is simply the amount of a good or service which consumers are willing and able to buy at a given price. And that's the key definition. If you're in the NCUK exam and you're sitting at the section A where it's short answer questions or multiple choice, that is the answer you need. Demand is the amount of a good or service which consumers are willing and able to buy at a given price. And one of the most famous diagrammatic models that you will encounter during your time studying NCUK IFY economics is the demand curve. And on your screen now, you should be able to see the demand curve. It's one of the first diagrammatic models that we learn. And what we can see on our y-axis, which is the vertical one, so the one that goes up, on the y-axis we have price. And on the x-axis, I always like to remember that x is across, as in x is across the horizontal line, we have the quantity demanded. And what you can see on this demand curve is that when prices are high, so in the top left of this diagram, when prices are high, people are not willing or able to buy the good. They're not willing and able to buy that many. But as the price comes down further and further and further, we get what's called an extension in demand. Those lower prices create an incentive for us to consume more. As the price goes down and we become more willing and able to buy the goods, we're simply acting upon our innate rational decision-making process. We know as households, as human beings, as citizens, that when things are cheaper, we get a high level of value from them. Everybody loves a bargain. You know, when you see the shops having sales and having discounts, you always come out feeling like you've got a huge amount of satisfaction. You've gained a phenomenal amount of utility because you've got it for cheaper than it should have been. And as businesses continue to reduce prices, they're able to actually sell more of the good because households respond to this change in price. They like to search out that bargain and fill their baskets with the cheaper product. Just like with the dairy milk. As I reduce that price, all of a sudden, we have people who are very happy to consume that delicious Birmingham export. And again, that's because of the theory. We want to maximize our utility. Now, utility might be a word that you haven't seen before. You might not be familiar with it. It ultimately means satisfaction, benefit. So right now, hopefully, you're consuming this NCUK IFY taster session and you're gaining utility. You're gaining value, you're gaining benefit, you're gaining satisfaction, because hopefully you're learning something new. You're learning that economics isn't the study of just money or just how the money moves around the economy. Alyssa said it was how government shape their decision-making process. Yes, all of that will be covered, but economics is the study of how we allocate scarce resources. And hopefully, over the course of an academic year, you have become a fantastic economist. So on the screen now, we have one of the most famous economists to have ever graced planet Earth. Does anybody know the name of this economist? Type the name in the chat box if you do know. I will be interested to see if anybody knows who this is. Don't worry if you don't. I appreciate it's a big ask. Okay, this is the 18th century Glaswegian economist, Adam Smith. So Adam Smith was born and lived in Scotland for his whole entire life. And many economists, myself included, will refer to this guy as the father of economics, because some of the work that he did and some of the early theory which he created have gone on to shape economic study and economic development and theory for generations to come. And one of the first theories you will learn from Adam Smith in your NCUK Foundation Year programme is specialisation and the division of labour. And he writes about how in a pin factory, you'd be able to create a lot more output if everybody did the same task rather than people doing lots of different tasks. So think about your teachers that you have, or the ones that you're going to be getting maybe when you join MPW Birmingham. If you come to MPW Birmingham, you're likely to have me for economics, but you definitely won't have me for biology or chemistry or maths or physics. I won't teach any other subject. The most efficient way to deliver really high quality, outstanding lessons is to have teachers specialize in different subject areas. But aside from this theory of specialization, one of Adam Smith's other most influential theories was the functions of the price mechanism. And he said that prices have three main purposes within a market, a place where buyers meet sellers to exchange money for their goods and services. And those three functions of the price mechanism are signaling, rationing, and incentives. When prices start to go up, this is a signal in the market that the resource is scarce. And this means that the producers in the market will become more willing and able to make the product. Higher prices mean higher profits and higher revenues. So as prices rise, that's a signal to producers to make more stuff, more goods, more services. When prices go down, as we've just seen with the demand curve and that brief discussion about the dairy milk, prices act as an incentive. When the price is going down, there is an incentive to consume more of the good because we gain more utility and more satisfaction. But today we're going to look at the rationing function of the price mechanism. And if any of you have been to an auction where you're bidding for a good, or you've bought something on eBay or another electronic auction website, you'll probably be familiar with the rationing function of the price mechanism, even though you weren't fully aware of it at the time. So for the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the price of puppies. And in The Economist, which is a very famous global publication for economics enthusiasts to read on a weekly basis, one of the articles which really grabbed my attention in the past week was one about the price of puppies. So as we mentioned earlier in this session, we can't ignore the fact that we have a coronavirus pandemic. We can't ignore the fact that we've been told to stay at home to protect the NHS and to save lives. That was the original message from the UK government. So we're confined to our houses. And when we're confined to our houses, many of us will have found ourselves in this situation. This is what I would call classic representation of UK lockdown 2020. So here we have what we would call in sociology a traditional family, although families will come in many shapes, sizes, and orientations. Here we have what we can assume is the mother and the father, and we've also got a young child as well. Now, what I saw on Facebook during the initial weeks of lockdown was a combination of admiration for teaching professionals. Many of my friends writing on Facebook saying, how do you manage to keep young children entertained in a room all day? Obviously at MPW Birmingham, we have smaller class sizes, which is fortunate. But even still, how can we keep 10 young minds continually infused, continually focused on learning? These parents that we can see on the screen have tried everything. They've tried every toy in the box. The giraffe has been out, the bear's been out, the lizard's been out, the wooden blocks have all been out to play with. And all we have surrounding us is a complete and utter mess. The kid is bouncing on the sofa, bouncing off the bed, literally bouncing off the ceiling. The parents are beginning to have a breakdown. They think, how on earth can we cope with this young child for any longer? When's the earliest we can get these children back to school? Now, normally, if you wanted to keep a child entertained, you might take it to a zoological collection, a zoo. You might take it to a museum, or you might take it to a theme park, but they're out of bounds because traveling to a zoo or a theme park or a museum is not essential travel. So in the UK, we had a very small number of reasons why we could leave our homes. One was to go shopping and to buy essentials such as food. But many of the supermarkets here in the UK said one adult at a time, please, from each family. So only one could go, and we couldn't take the children with us. So they're stuck in the house. So one parent is left at home with the child, bouncing off the bed, bouncing off the sofa, bouncing off the ceiling, whilst the other gains some respite shopping around the supermarket. But then they return home. Again, parents are confronted by a tireless child who is completely, bored of all the toys and activities which have been presented to them. And one evening when the child has gone to bed, the mum looks to the dad looks to the mum and says, I think we should get a dog. Because if we get a dog, that will entertain the beloved child. It's a great time to get a dog because we're in the house all day, so we can train it. I think we should get a dog because that means we can leave the house. We can walk the dog in the local park, and that's an acceptable reason to leave the house. So the dog seemingly was the solution to all of this family's problems. And what we've seen during the lockdown process is just as the number of Facebook or Twitter posts about admiration for teachers increases, so does the amount of posts saying, does anybody know anyone who is selling any puppies? And I've seen this myself on my Facebook feed. I've seen friends of mine, praising teachers and then asking where they can buy a dog that's immediately available. But the market for dogs is actually quite unusual because there is a fundamental shortage of puppies. So in economics, we might say that the supply of puppies is perfectly inelastic. This means that we can't just magic them out of thin air. This isn't Greek mythology or Harry Potter. There's no magic spell which can help puppy breeders to immediately generate puppies which can then be sold to households who are looking to rehome a dog. So although these breeders of puppies may be willing and able to sell puppies in the future, right now, at this point in time, lockdown 2020, they only have the puppies available. They only have the puppies they currently have. When it comes to creating puppies, for want of a better term, there is a significant time lag. First of all, the mummy dog, which has the current puppies, well, she needs to be impregnated again, so she's got to go and play in the field with the daddy dog. And then ultimately, she's then got to go from her gestation period, her pregnancy. Now, I did look it up before the lesson, and apparently the average pregnancy time for a dog is 63 days. So we've got to let the mummy dog and daddy dog play in the field. Mummy dog's then got to be pregnant for 63 days while she develops the baby doggies in her womb. I hope Adam Cross's biology session was better than my one. And then ultimately, once those babies have become ready to be born, the puppies arrive and they soon suckle on their mother, and we have a new litter of puppies. And that's great news for the puppy breeder. But we can't just sell the puppies on the day they're born. There's then another 8-week time lag, because the puppies have got to learn how to do puppy and doggy things, and their mum will show them how to learn the skills of life. And obviously, the puppies will need the milk from the mother for at least 8 weeks. So it's 8 weeks until these puppies are ready to go. So when you consider the whole time lag from the puppy breeder deciding it's time to breed more puppies, and then having stock of puppies that are ready and able to go to new loving homes, it's going to take around 18 weeks. So right now, what we can learn from this is that puppies are a scarce resource. Let's imagine that we have a puppy breeder, and the puppy breeder has a litter of 6 baby Labradors, a lovely dog. And there are these 6 puppies, and we're looking at these puppies, and we've got our inbox, our messenger, our WeChat, our WhatsApp. Literally, the notifications are going through the roof. Those emails from parents who need an escape route and are looking to buy a dog are going up so fast, but the number of puppies remains constant. Now, some people who are probably quite ethical and morally courageous, which most economists tend not to be, would say it should be first come, first served. The first 6 people to email the puppy breeder should be the people who are able to rehome the dog. But in the real world, economics takes over. The market takes over. Because we have a scarce resource and seemingly infinite demand. Thousands of emails coming through about these dogs. And what we would do as the puppy breeder is we would simply increase our prices. Because if we increase our prices of these scarce commodities, I know we shouldn't really talk about dogs like that, this scarce resource, what will happen is, as a breeder, we'll make more revenue, more profits. When coronavirus is over, we can book that holiday to the Maldives. So what will happen is the price will gradually increase and increase and increase. And as the price of those 6 puppies goes up, what will happen is some people who sent the email asking about the puppy will become less willing and less able to buy the dog. Imagine the puppies were originally advertised at £400 each. If the breeder suddenly puts the price up to £800, some families are just simply unable to afford that extra £400. Some believe they won't gain £800 of utility, so the demand becomes lower. Demand is contracting. But still, even at £800, we might have 50 people who are willing and able to buy the puppy, but we still only have 6 puppies. What do we do now? We increase the price again. We increase the price to £1,200. So in overall, a 200% increase in the price of our puppies. And gradually, what we will do is we will increase the price further and further and further until we can find what we call in economics an equilibrium, where the number of households who are willing and able to buy the good is equal to the amount which the suppliers are willing and able to sell. So if we just look quickly at our diagrammatic model on this diagram, if we have a really low price, let's say towards about a third of the way up that y-axis, about a third of the way up that y-axis, let's say that's the price of £400, there is a seemingly infinite amount of people who are willing and able to buy the dog. But if we increase the price to £800, so we go about 2/3 of the way up that y-axis where it says price, you can see that demand has contracted. Demand is now lower. We only have, let's say, 50 people who are willing and able to buy the dog. And then we increase that price furthermore, let's say to £1,200, and we arrive at a situation where at a price of £1,200, we have 6 puppies available that are ready to be rehomed, and we have 6 people who are willing and able to pay £1,200 to solve their lockdown crisis of children out of control, intense boredom, and an inability to leave the house without a good reason. And this is the rationing function of the price mechanism. Adam Smith stated that almost as if by an invisible hand, prices will work in a market to allocate resources. When there is a shortage, as there is with the case of the puppies, and there is too much demand, this will force the prices up, 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 until there is less demand for those puppies. Now, the rationing function of the price mechanism is a mainstay of the NCUK specification, and we will look at it in many different examples. We will look at something called maximum wages, where we will look at how that can actually create excess demand for labour. We will also talk about the rationing function of the price mechanism when we look at things like externalities as well. All new terms I appreciate for you guys, but you will be supported all of the way through during that NCUK programme. Now, on my penultimate slide, what we can see here is some quantitative data. Now, one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do you need to be good at maths if you want to do economics? Well, it depends. If you want to do economics at university, being good at maths is definitely an advantage. If you want to do it at A-level or NCUK, don't worry about it. You do not need to be good at maths. And on NCUK, I'll be completely honest, you're lucky if there are 2 multiple choice questions asking you to do a calculation. So out of, the 400 marks or 300 marks, sorry, that are available across all of the NCUK assessments, you'd be lucky if 4 of those marks were calculations. The rest are all writing and essay-based or short answer questions. But we do have to be able to analyze quantitative data. And what we can see here is proof of the rationing function of the price mechanism. So this was published by the, you can go and check their website if you wish to validate this source. But they have gained data from the Kennel Club, which is like a breed directory for dogs here in the UK, and the most successful puppy advertising website, Pets for Homes. And what they have reported during lockdown is these exponential, these really big increases in the price of puppies. So some of the most popular breeds during lockdown have been the Cockapoo and the Cavapoo and the Labradoodle, these designer hybrids almost of dogs. What we can see with the Cockapoo is that the price of an individual Cockapoo puppy has increased by around 260% since before the lockdown was initiated. So all of these breeders all around the country have been looking at their scarce resource, the limited number of puppies they have available. And what the market, the functions of the price mechanism have done to eliminate excess demand is they have forced prices up until a price is attained of, let's say, £2,905 in the case of a Cockapoo, where the number of puppies available is equal to the number of homes which are available for those puppies. And we won't just be looking at puppies. We won't just be looking at dogs when you do NCUK. We'll be looking at a wide range of markets. We'll be looking at the markets for cigarettes, the markets for alcohol, the market for coal, gold, you name it. Any everyday product, we'll look at it. You can apply economics to every single market. Economics surrounds us every single day of the week, every single day, every single minute. We're completely enveloped by this subject. And what you will notice, I hope, by the time you complete your NCUK Economics Foundation course, is that your conversations with adults, with other students will become more mature, and you'll gain a much more intrinsic understanding of how the real world works And economics equips you with all of the skills required to develop arguments, analysis, and evaluation, not just at NCUK level, but at undergraduate level as well, and beyond in your career. So it really is an exciting subject. And right at the beginning of this session, I said to you that economics was the most boring subject in the world if it is taught badly. And I will never change my opinion on that. But the secret is economics is really fun. And I hope that you can see my personal enthusiasm for the subject. And I would love to develop your enthusiasm as well and help you become a more distinguished and competent economist. So thank you for taking part in today's NCUK IFY Economics Taster Session. I do believe that my colleagues Felicity and Shahina will assist me now if you have any questions about economics, NCUK, MPW, Birmingham, EPQ, I don't mind.
Thank you, Martin. That was really, really interesting. And yes, puppies, I mean, puppies are amazing. So of course, economics is fun. I mean, if we're talking about puppies. Thank you so much. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes, or well, seconds really, just for people to write in the message box for any questions that you would like to ask Martin now. Do feel free. We'll hang on a little bit.
Really good. So whilst we're waiting for some questions to come in, I'll just answer some of the most frequently asked questions that I normally get about economics.
Thank you.
One of the most frequently asked questions I get from students who are looking to study NCUK Economics at MPW Birmingham is, what can I read over the summer before I arrive in Birmingham? Now, personally, I have a real hatred of textbooks. I really don't like textbooks that go with courses. And if you come to MPW Birmingham, I will give you all the resources, which are, in my opinion, better than the textbooks, and you'll get everything you need to absolutely smash your NCUK year with us. Our NCUK economics results are phenomenal and way above the global average for this course. But if you do insist on reading something, and that's a good idea, especially in the current climate, I recommend a book called Donut Economics. Now, we have to be very careful here. This book is not called Economics for Donuts. That would be a very different book. But Donut Economics is a book by an economist at Oxford University called Kate Raworth. And what she does is she challenges some of the fundamental thinking that has existed in economics to date. And she calls upon you guys, the students in this room now, the next generation, to build upon the existing economic theory. Unfortunately, in the global economy, we've been allocating resources in a way that we have issues like climate change or incredible plastic pollution. We have huge levels of income inequality, not just in the UK, but throughout the global economy. And what Kate Raworth has done has created some new models, which aren't taught at NCUK, but they show you the criticism of some of the ones that we do learn. And you might think, well, what's the point of reading a book that criticizes the models we're going to learn? Well, reading that book will develop your evaluative insight, and it really will shape the perspective that you have of the global economy and also economics as a subject. And Donut Economics isn't just a fun book with a quirky name. It actually is a revolution in terms of economic thinking. And the Netherlands has recently said that they are going to use the donut model to influence future policy decisions. And I think, if you want to keep ahead of the times, rather than reading about 18th century Adam Smith, you want to look at the 21st century economics. Donut Economics is definitely a book that you should read. In addition, just stay up to date with current affairs, reading websites like maybe the BBC and just looking at those top 10 stories. We're not interested in Kim Kardashian's love life, but we are interested in what's happening at the moment during the pandemic with high levels of unemployment in the USA. We're interested in the slowdown in car production. We're interested in the price of puppies, of course. So just keep aware of current affairs. You can do a lot worse things than investing in the news for half an hour per day. Now, it's a difficult time for everybody's sort of mental well-being and our mindfulness, because a lot of us are constrained to our homes. So don't surround yourself in the news 24/7. But half an hour a day, key facts, key stories is definitely a way to be successful. Another question, I'm very happy to take any questions that you guys have. Another question I'm likely to receive. I've got one from Alyssa here. Do you think a subscription to The Economist is worth it? Really good question. So Alyssa, what I would recommend is if you get a subscription to The Economist now, you can probably get a subscription. In the UK, we have an offer where you can get 12 issues for £12 delivered to your house, which is really, really good value. What I would do is I would get that subscription to The Economist because it is really interesting. It really can give you some key insight into the field of economics. But then when you arrive at MPW Birmingham or any of the other MPW colleges, I would recommend cancelling your subscription and then coming to see me or whoever your economics teacher is, because as a school, we get a phenomenal discount on The Economist. So it costs about £5.99 per week if you buy it off the shelf. I think if we get the school's account, we can get it for about £1.63, sometimes even less per issue. And it's delivered to college, and I can simply just give that to you at the start of the lesson. So yes, I do think it is worth a subscription. And the quality of the material published on The Economist is superior to that published on the BBC or any other newspaper, in my opinion. I hope that's answered your question, Alyssa. Another question I often get is about the format of the NCUK economics assessment. So the way that it works is when you join MPW Birmingham in, let's say, September, you would start with semester 1, which is microeconomics, which is the study of individual decision-making by households, firms, and governments. What you will do in that first semester is you will learn content in the lessons, but you will also work on a piece of coursework, which is 1,750 words in length. And that piece of coursework is 10% of the overall qualification for the NCUK year. So it's really important that you do master that particular assessment. Then at the end of semester 1, you will have an examination and you will be examined on all of the stuff that you have completed in semester 1, so all of microeconomics. Immediately after that assessment has finished, you will then transfer into semester 2, where we look at macroeconomics. And I think someone mentioned earlier in the chat box about how you look at government policy making. That is definitely what we will be doing in semester 2. And again, during semester 2, you will have a piece of coursework worth 10%. So before you even sit the final year exam, you've got a semester 1 coursework piece worth 10%. You've got the end of semester exam worth 10%, and then semester 2 coursework worth 10%. So in total, before you've sat that final exam, you've actually got 30% of your grade under your belt. Then when you sit the final examination, that assesses you on both microeconomics and macroeconomics, and that paper is worth 70% of the overall qualification. The format for that final exam is relatively straightforward. You have 20 multiple choice questions, 10 on micro, 10 on macro. You then do 10 short case study responses where you're given some unseen script, maybe an article from the BBC or from The Economist. And then you have 10 marks of questions about each of those case studies, and there's 2 of those. You then move into the final section where you have to write some extended essays worth 30 marks, and you will write a 30-mark essay for both microeconomics and macroeconomics. So 100 marks in total, and that part of the qualification is worth 70%. Another question which I might get asked by a lot of international students is, what other support is on offer at the college? So, as you can see, I'm incredibly passionate about economics. So not only would you have 4 lessons per week with myself or one of my colleagues, but we also run things like economics workshops. This year they ran on a Thursday at 5 p.m. in the student common room. And literally all of the economics cohort, both from A-level and NCUK, got together to share ideas, and we'd recover some content to really help us with that revision process. In addition, we have a virtual learning environment, and the virtual learning environment is full of resources. So all of the lesson slides which you will use to help you navigate through the course are available online. The booklets which I give to you to make your class notes, you can download those, you can access them from your room in your accommodation, or you can access them on the bus or the train, hopefully, with social distancing, of course. But that is a really fantastic way for you to access resources all the time. And there's lots of opportunity to practice like past paper questions. We do have an end of term test in NCUK, so you'll do a few different tests within the lesson during the year, so that I can give you feedback on your answer technique and your knowledge. I've been an NCUK economics examiner now for 5 years, and I'm also a senior examiner for AQA, which is one of the biggest exam boards in the UK, and I am the seed for macroeconomics paper 2 for AQA, which means that I help set the standard and work out sort of what a good and bad answer looks like in those early days of first receiving the initial scripts. So lots of experience and lots of insight, which I can't wait to pass on to you guys.
Great, thank you so much, Martin. That was really, really insightful and very interesting indeed. So thank you everybody for joining today. Do please feel free to continue asking questions via email to international@mpw.ac.uk. And yes, thank you so much, and thank you, Martin. And I think we'll wrap it up and have a lovely day and stay safe.
Thanks, you guys. Stay safe.